It was a funny day. Actually, today was the first day where I had to defend the religion of Islam. I didn't know that I was going to be defending the religion of Islam, but I was defending it. Basically, I'll tell you guys what happened. You tell me what you think. Basically, I was training jiu-jitsu in the morning. I train at like 7 in the morning, jiu-jitsu sometimes on Fridays. So I was training jiu-jitsu in the morning, and the thing about jiu-jitsu guys is a lot of them are like deep thinkers. I think it's the jiu-jitsu thing. I think because some people they're training and they have to like they humble themselves through training, and it makes you're aggressive and you're trying to figure things out. It's a difficult challenge, and I'd recommend everybody do jiu-jitsu. However, after the jiu-jitsu was done, somebody I was talking about how some people, they bang their students, so some of the teachers bang their students. So then we started talking about right and wrong. This is how it started. We started going, okay, well, what's right and what's wrong to do? And obviously, after reading Surah Baqarah, I started to kind of understand, at least, that I believe that there is an objective morality. And I think that you can read the Quran and find objective morality, but maybe you can find objective morality in other places, maybe to a lesser degree. But you, at least, maybe a lot of these religions can agree that, for example, don't covet what your neighbor wants. Don't covet what your neighbor has. Or treat yourself how you'd want your neighbor to be treated. Like Jesus says, love God with all of your heart and love your neighbor. And I think that's a good understanding of it. Or the Quran will tell you really the same thing, which is to kill one man is like the kill of all of mankind, right? Or to give to the poor, and give the best of what you have with the poor. So anyway, my point is that I wasn't even making the argument. I was watching people argue about if morality is objective or not, or if we just should like fulfill our own devices, so what we want based off what our society wants. Now, the issue with that thought process is like, I'm gonna believe something because my society believes it. That's how you get into Nazi territory. That's how you get into like cult-like behavior, because just because the society believes something doesn't mean that it's a right thing to do. If the whole society was cool to drink the Kool-Aid, which should be drinking Kool-Aid that would happen with Jim Jones. Jim Jones? I think Jim Jones. No, not John Jones, for sure. Jim Jones. Jim Jones in when he brought his followers to the Caribbean, and they all, drank the poison, drank the Kool-Aid. If you do what your society wants you to do, you could end up on the wrong path, which leads me back to the question: is there such thing as objective morality? And I believe that there is. Anyway, so this guy's asking a whole bunch of questions about objective morality. He's very good at questioning everything. Like, no. What about this? What about this? What about this? It seems like sometimes you appeal to your own arrogance, and you don't want to believe in anything except for your own intelligence. By the way, when you do that, you become a god to yourself. You start treating yourself like a god. So if I believe that I'm right, I'm not going to submit to anything, everything is up to my will. First of all, nothing's up to your will. Most of what you think is based off your environment. But let's just say you believe that, you become a god to yourself. Well, you try to become a god to yourself, at least. So I told the guy, just, because we're having a philosophical conversation, I said, man, like, have you ever read the Quran? And he was like, it says you should do this to the infidel and Muhammad this. I was like, holy man, that's wild. I didn't tell you that you need to convert today. I just said, have you read the book? It's fascinating though, right? Because you have to think from a psychological perspective, why did that person get so heated? Maybe they get heated because Muslims live a certain life that way. So by living a life one way, maybe you're pointing out that living the other life is wrong. But I guess I just don't understand the anger towards it. So, I mean, the whole argument, I wasn't arguing for one side or the other. I was just saying, like, because he was quoting some stuff, like, you should do this to the infidel. And I was like, have you read the book? And he's like, no. I was like, where did you learn this stuff from? I don't know. What? How do you have an opinion on something that you've never read? That doesn't make any sense. How could I have the opinion on the U.S. Constitution if I never read the U.S. Constitution? How could I have an opinion on the Bible if I never read the Bible? On top of that, if you're getting your information on the Quran or on Islam from people who don't like the Quran or Islam, they're not going to give you the right picture. So you're just going to lead yourself in the wrong direction. If you're going to learn about Christianity, You should learn it from people. I think you should learn it from the source, and then learn it from Christians, right? Find out what their religion's about, how do Christians live, and then you can learn it from outside people who are not Christian, and you learn both, you know. But if you're only going to learn about Christianity from people who hate Christianity, you're not going to learn anything about Christianity. You're just going to learn about why it's wrong and why that guy's right. Sounds like a stupid thing to do. I would rather do what I'm doing right now, which is read the book. Read it. And then make a decision on if you like it or you don't like it. And from just to cover my bases when it comes to Surah Al-Baqarah, you know, I was thinking, you know, am I going to make this a really in-depth video about Surah Al-Baqarah or... No, I'm not, because I'm not a person who can give like really in-depth analysis. Like my analysis aren't in depth. I'm just trying to figure it out, you know. So this is my summary of Surah Al-Baqarah, if I can tell you about it so far. Really, what the summary of Surah Al-Baqarah is these are the guiding principles of your life. This is a guiding principle of how people who believe in God should behave. That you can't force anybody into a religion. You should remember God all the time. You should fast. You should seek patience in prayer. You should be mindful of God when you're doing activities. And don't let evil take you over, because the devil will pull you down to his depths. That's it. That's all I have. And I think that's a good summary for me. The stories are the stories about the Jews worshiping the cow. I think that like my understanding of that is really, when you don't have something to worship, when you don't believe in God, you're going to worship something. And if I'm not mistaken, the cow was a resemblance of the gods that they have in Egypt, which is a little bit further of analysis. But if that's true, which I think it's true, but if it's true, that means that you actually, and where did the Jews go? The Jews left Egypt. Moses led them out of Egypt into the promised land, and they ended up worshiping the cow. And if they're worshiping the cow, first of all, look how easy it is to forget about God. That's one. Two, the second thing is, if it was a god that was in Egypt, which I've heard before, that means that you end up worshiping the thing that got you enslaved before. So sometimes when you're searching for God, God's going to bring you into a desert. You're going to be in no man's land. And through no man's land, that's going to be challenging. It's kind of like where I am right now. I'm in no man's land, you know? And maybe you're moving towards the promised land, but on the way to the promised land, maybe you'll, as a South African say, you'll list for something. You'll want something that was actually slavery in the past. So for example, if you become Muslim and you forget about the dunya and you're trying to go and focus on God, the dunya is going to be tempting you back. But if you look at it as slavery, that enslavement is going to be tempting you back. So that's my thoughts so far. Now I will be starting to go over the second chapter, which is about Jesus. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking to have some fun analysis on there. Well, I love you all. Happy Friday. And thanks for listening. All right. Goodbye.